what would you tell her if she would ask, how can I develop charisma?
I mean, what is charisma? Charisma is the extent to which other people perceive you to be like a confident, outgoing
Yes,
person, I guess, and the extent to which they
a likable
perceive you to
person.
be likable, and competent in social situations. Yeah, magnetic, I guess. And
Yeah.
that's a skill. That's something that's developed over time. That's something that you learn from dealing with people a lot and learning how to navigate social situations. And so the real thing is not how do I become charismatic, it's how do I overcome the resistance that I'm feeling that's stopping me from going out and talking to people and practicing. And that's one of the main things that we deal with in coaching. You've gone through the course, I've gone through the course. It's like this, hundreds of people have gone through the fucking course. You have to address the ego, and you have to address that part of your brain that's telling you that you can't do things, and like the lack of confidence and the lack of self-worth, and all of these things tie together into a quote-unquote lack of charisma. Like the people that are the most charismatic are the people that are the most comfortable around other people, that don't really care if things go wrong around other people, and are most like carefree, and the people that have the capacity to express themselves the best around other people, and the people that are the best at connecting with people. So I think it comes to these three things: the confidence, or the lack of like social anxiety, the competence in social situations, and knowing how to navigate things, and knowing how to express themselves, and knowing how to connect with people. So we can address each of these one by one, I guess. So getting rid of the social anxiety, you need to teach yourself that like it goes back to the thing we've talked about before about the cycle of behaviors and results. It's like you think and believe certain things, and so you take certain behaviors that are in alignment with those beliefs and your worldview, and then you get results that reaffirm those beliefs. So if you're someone that's socially anxious, you're probably going to behave a little bit more nervous around people. People are going to treat you differently, and then you get results that affirm the fact that social situations are dangerous and awkward and whatever. Whereas if you start to change that, and what we do in the course is we take people out and make them do deliberately embarrassing things in public, and so this is targeting the action part of it, because their belief is, oh, if I embarrass myself, like bad things are going to happen, and people aren't going to like me, and blah 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 blah. And the fear there ultimately comes down to like, we're very, very social creatures. We don't want people to not like us because it's dangerous. Like if public opinion used to be imperative to survival, and when we need each other to live, and so if people didn't like you might get cast out into the fucking woods, you die alone, you get eaten by jaguars, whatever, right? And so that's where the fear initially comes from, and it's healthy to have some fear, but for a lot of people it takes over, and the less that you are exposed to certain situations, the more that you will fear those situations, because your brain just wants to keep you doing the thing that it thinks is keeping you alive, right? So we take people out and we force them to do deliberately embarrassing things in public, and they realize two things. One, people are very, very friendly most of the time. They're open, they're friendly, they're welcoming, they'll help you. It's very rare that people treat you badly, even when you're deliberately doing stupid shit, right? And then the second thing is that they're safe. They're not going to die. Like nothing bad is actually happening to them. And then so that little voice in their head, they realize that voice is wrong. And that little voice in their head that's going, you can't do this, you can't do that, these people might not like you, it starts to shut the fuck up and get replaced by a voice that's going, oh my God, I can do anything I want, right? And so you start to feel more safe and comfortable around people in general. And then from that point, you can begin to express yourself properly, because you're not, like, if you can go out and fucking pick your nose in the street and someone will still shake your hand, and like, you can tell people you have a fucking STD and they're like, oh shit, how can I help you? You know, you realize that in the course of normal conversation and just being yourself, there is nothing that you can say or do that's going to make anything end badly, right? And so people learn this. And then the second part is learning how to connect with people, and we can teach people that. And I have posts on this. If you go into the server, discord.gg/self-improvement, or there's a link in the description if that vanity link ever disappears. There's posts about like how to connect with people properly, and the stages of relationships and things like this, and what forms human connection. Basically, it comes down to, if I understand how you think and feel about things, and you understand how I think and feel about things, we're going to feel connected to each other. So beyond like compatibility and chemistry and all these things that we talked about before, if you want to connect with somebody, you need to share emotional experiences, and they don't even have to be the same thing. You can feel a different way from something as someone else does, but as long as you understand each other's feelings, you can start to feel connected and bonded with each other. And so you can ask lots of like emotionally led questions and things like that. This is all stuff that we teach. And so once you have those two things down, it's just practice from that point. And the more that you are exposed to other people, the more you become comfortable around them. And then you become quote unquote charismatic. Like I used to be a really fucking socially awkward, no friends, no bitches kind of guy, you know? And so did you. But it's like you go through the work, you dismantle you dismantle all of the stuff that's holding you back. You build up your self-worth and your sense of like faith and confidence in yourself. You find things in your life to bring back into your sense of self-worth. You overcome the social anxiety and the bit of you that's telling you that you can't go out and speak to people and all these things. And then you start going out and speaking to people and you learn how to connect. And again, there's frameworks to all of this stuff. And then you eventually learn like, oh, I'm worthy of love and affection. And you stop caring what other people think. And you also realize that it's not about making people like you. It's about finding people that do. It's about finding compatibility with people. And once you have compatibility and people that sort of fit with you and have the same like likes and interests and all these things and people that you can bounce off of, you can then start finding good friends and stuff like that, and then all of the pressure disappears, and then you become charismatic because your sense of like you're not trying, you stop trying, and it becomes like an effortless thing after a while. So that's how it happens. I don't know, does that answer your question? I try to keep it brief because like we could talk for 12 fucking hours about each of these topics, but yeah, to sum up, those are the steps. Get over the things that are like conquer the ego and get over the voice in your head that's telling you that you can't go out and speak to people and that things might go wrong, and realize that social situations are safe. And then learn how to connect with people and find compatible people, and then do that lots and lots of times and practice. And then over time, you will become a confident, charismatic person with lots of people in your life that are compatible with you and keep you going. And you have like a good social circle. And I've been through this experience. You've been through this experience. Dozens of other people have been through this experience. Fucking hundreds if you count the past company that I used to work with. You know?
Yeah. It's like I feel so much more calm around people now than I used to, because you have these intimidating figures, you know, even at work and I remember back in the day, I would like stifle up around those people. But nowadays I'm like super chill and I can joke with them. It's so much more cool.
And how bizarre does it seem now where you're like, I used to not be able to talk to my coworkers? Like, do you give a fuck what those people think now? You know? They're your coworkers. Who cares? But it's like, a few years ago, it's like, oh, what if they don't like? What if I get fired for looking at somebody wrong? You know. And it's like the less exposure you have to certain social situations, the more extreme your beliefs about the potential consequences of those situations are, because you've never really experienced the range of what happens when you speak to people in certain ways and do certain things, you know. And it's through pushing those boundaries that you realize that the boundaries are way farther and way more flexible than you thought. Like, unless you start running around in the street naked, like pissing on people or whatever, most people are not going to give a fuck what you do. It's like you really have to get, like, I had a client in Kiev that stripped down into his underwear and started cartwheeling down the street going, woo, right? And people were clapping and cheering and like taking pictures with him and stuff, you know? It's like you can go to that level and people will still treat you well and think you're cool, you know? But most people couldn't dream of doing it because it draws attention, and attention is potentially negative, because when people are paying attention to you, if you fuck up, it's like you might get cast out of society. But in reality, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, but and then back in the days, I used to, like, whenever I met new colleagues, like in the first year I worked there, I just looked down, like a small nod, and I just kept on walking. I never spoke to anybody, like barely good morning. And now I'm so socially free at my job.
It's been a long time since I've been in that sort of state, but from seeing clients and stuff like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I really do think it's like you're trying not to draw attention to yourself. You're trying to not be seen, essentially, because you're scared that if you're seen, you might be seen in a negative way. And so most people go through their life just trying not to draw attention to themselves and being meek. And when they meet people, they try and mold themselves to what that other person wants them to be. And that is the opposite of charisma. It's the opposite of confidence. It's like you become fucking Play-Doh. And then, Play-Doh's fun for kids, but it's a weird analogy. I don't know where I'm going with that, but you understand what I'm saying. Like you just become this like wishy-washy person that is irrelevant. It's
and
when you
who's
start to refine
so
your personality and you start to be okay with people not liking you that more people start to actually like you. And there will always be people that don't. That's
oh
fine,
yeah.
but you become like a polarizing thing in people's lives. They either like you or they don't, and that's good because it's a filter. You're filtering people into your life that are compatible with you, and you're pushing away the people that aren't. Great, wonderful. There's millions, billions of people in the world. There's always going to be people that like you and people that don't. It's your job to find those people and refine yourself to the point where they're naturally filtered in and out of your life, rather than trying to make people like you, because that never works. Because if you're trying to make people like you, there's nothing that actually stands out about you to be liked.
Yeah, if you're liked by everybody, you're doing something wrong.
Nobody's liked by
And
everybody.
that's what I was trying to do back in the days. Like I just wanted to be liked by everybody, and I would people please all the time. And then whenever I get attention, like I would turn so red in my face because I don't know how to deal with this energy,
Yeah.
and I would be ashamed in the evening of it. And I was thinking like, I don't want to be like this anymore. And it was a horrible time in my life.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was like that. God, it's been a while. Like, yeah, when I was younger, when I first started getting into all this, just I remember the crippling levels of anxiety, and also like, did you focus on yourself? Like, did you like spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, like examining yourself, and like, do I look okay? Like, how do I sound? Like all of this stuff as well. Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of it is it's a form of self obsession, not in like a. I mean, I suppose you could consider it narcissistic in a way, but it's a form of self obsession. Like you're so focused on how you appear to other people and trying not to be seen in a negative light that you're not focused at all on just being who you want, being who you want to be, and B, learning about other people and focusing on them instead. Because and it's when you do that people like you the most as well. Like everybody loves to talk about themselves. So if you can get people talking about themselves and sharing emotional stuff with you, they're going to like you more. They're going to feel bonded to you. But if you're just constantly thinking about what you're saying and what you're doing and how to fit in, it's like you can't connect with people like that, you know?
Like the moment you're saying this right now, this was exactly me. I was always in my own head, and I was never thinking, what is this person actually saying?
Yeah.
I already knew what I was going to say like 10 seconds before they even finished their sentence. And that's how like I always had like these silences in my conversations, because I was just in my head only talking, and it makes a lot of sense right now. And then basically what pushed me to change was like the girls, because I couldn't talk to girls. Like I was even more worse than just normal people or colleagues.
Yeah, I
And
get
then the
called.
balls started rolling.
Sorry, you go. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing that draws people into self improvement is usually I want to feel better, or I want other people to like me. And usually if you're a man, it means that you want to get a girlfriend, or you just want women in your life. And so it's like I get called a dating coach a lot. I consider myself a social coach, but I'm fine being like, I don't like the pickup-y connotations that dating coach has, because most dating coaches are fucking red pill assholes or pickup assholes. But it's like, yeah, a lot of guys come into this sphere and they end up working on their social stuff because they want to get a girlfriend, and that's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a perfectly good need to have, and everybody has that need, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? But it's after you get past that point. Like I'm always telling people, it's like you realize that even once you have a girlfriend, the work's not over. You know, so it's like you because it's like once you've solved. A lot of people conflate their lack of intimacy or their lack of affection with all of their problems in their life, and they think, oh, once I fix that, everything's gonna be fine. And it's like, I'll let you get to that point, and then you learn. You know. Then you get to that point and you're like, oh shit, it's like I still feel like shit sometimes, and I still have like low self-worth, and it's like, yeah, let's work on that now. You know, but it's fine. It's usually the first problem that people want to fix, and as long as after you fix that problem you don't stop and you really, because it's like if you fix that problem and then you stop working on yourself, the relationship's going to fall apart. You know, like you have to continuously to be the person that you want to be, and so if you're just trying to fix that problem, you run into issues. And so I'm always telling people, it's like all of the stuff that I teach that applies to dating also applies to social circles, and that's arguably way like the friends that you have and the people that are in your life and the connections that you make are far more important than how cute the girl is that you're fucking. You know, and no, I'm not devaluing the value of like a really good, healthy, bonded relationship. Like that can take you tremendously far, and like having a life partner and all of that stuff is really beautiful, right? But make good friends as well. It's like so many people come into this sphere and they're like, they listen to my advice or other people's advice, and they're like, they just use it to talk to girls and then that's it. And it's like they're getting laid constantly, but their life isn't actually improving beyond the fact that they're just shagging now, you know?
yes.
And that's a problem with a
When
lot
I think
with a lot
about
of the sorry to interrupt you. That's a problem with a lot of the pickup stuff as well. It's like
what,
it's focused entirely on rather than actually improving the internal stuff, is how can I manifest things externally and change the way that I appear externally so that people like me and I can start to sleep with women. And then it's like they get laid like rock stars, but they're still deeply unhappy people and nothing else about their life changes. And not only that, they're meeting like low quality women because they're not actually attracting good people. They're just using tactics to attract the people that those tactics work on. And then it's like and because they can't see past that as the problem, it's like I have a need for intimacy, and this was my first problem as well. Like I got into self-improvement because I wanted to date too. Like it's normal, right? Especially as a guy. But you need to realize that problem isn't the whole picture, and a lot of people don't realize that, and so they're getting laid and they have girlfriends and whatever, and then they're like, why am I still unhappy? And they can't see past well, I'm getting my needs met. It's like, are you though? You know, there's a bunch of needs beyond intimacy and affection, even though it is a big primary one for a lot of people.
yes, like the girls is a cool thing, but for me, it's like now when I look back at this, maybe like 15% of what I came here. Like when I look at it now, what I've gained from this,
Yeah.
it's beyond like
Yeah.
it's basically my life completely transformed. Like if it wouldn't have been for you, I don't think I would have gone to Thailand. I wouldn't have like set up my job. I wouldn't have like the friends I have right now. I wouldn't be able to be socially free. I wouldn't be able to be myself. And like this is like a snowball to like have an amazing life. And like
For sure.
throughout this experience, I think I created like a cool identity because I take risks and I do fun stuff, and I have a story to tell right now because of being brutally authentic in my life.
Yeah.
And that's like so much more valuable than having girls.
Yeah,
So
like
much more.
all of this, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm very happy to see you improve in such a way. Like it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, it's very like all of the like. Then I don't mean to toot my own horn too much here, but like the thing that sets myself and the guy that I used to work with apart from other people in this sphere is that we're not like, yeah, the dating thing is important, and you know, manifesting good friendships and good relationships is very important, and it's part of your like self-fulfillment needs. But it goes like everything that we teach goes so far beyond that, because it's like most dating advice is like, yeah, like I say, how do I become the person that other people want me to be in order for them to like me or want to sleep with me, right? And the stuff that I teach is how do I become internally the person that I want to be, and how do I fix my internal issues so that I can attract the people into my life that are meant to be with me, right? And once you do that, everything else in your life changes as well, because you become a fundamentally different person. You're not just trying to be the person that other people want you to be. You're trying to be the person that you want to be, and from that you get all of the results. And it's an internal shift rather than an external one. And yeah, everything improves as a result. And people come and they're like, it's like I fixed like my first problem was that I was lonely. You know, I wanted a girlfriend. I didn't have intimacy in my life, and I needed that. And that's why I got into self-improvement. And as soon as I learned that stuff, I'm like, oh shit, I'm like, I'm still unhappy. I still have like self-consciousness issues. It's like once that problem's fixed, it's like, good, I can now free myself up to do other things. And it's a good first problem to have. And I think you should fix that problem, but it's realizing there's so much to this beyond that in order to live what you consider to be like a good life. Because at the end of the day, like you're alive. That's all that really matters is survival and living, in terms of like the meaning of life is just to be here, right? Everything else is kind of a bonus. And it's up to you as a person to figure out what do you want this to be. And once you figured that out, or as you figure that out, you become the person that you need to be in order to get that.
If I would like have to get it all together in a sentence, like this self-improvement thing, what's your opinion on this? If I would say, how authentic are you able to live this life? Question mark.
Sure.
This is where it all comes down, right?
Yeah, I mean, authenticity in my mind is the degree to which your internal state matches your external one. So it's the degree to which you are behaving and thinking and doing in alignment with what feels right internally. But that can become a tricky thing as well, because people are like, well, if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you want, then what is authenticity at that point, you know? And people are very fluid. And I think the extra step to that is in deciding who you want to be and what is authenticity to you. It's like inauthenticity is like you feel a certain way and you think a certain way and you're behaving in a way that is not congruent with that, right? But until you've figured out who it is that you are and who you want to be, it's like, how can you even be authentic in the first place, you know? So I would say that self-improvement is the process of just figuring out what you want from life, right? And then becoming the person that is aligned with that.
That's a good one. Super interesting. Good conversation, by the way.
Any other questions? Sorry, on you go. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was not going to say something. So yeah, like if the moment you become like this person, like it's for me, it's very hard to deal with people who have like this victim mindset, you know, because like the moment you have this, you cannot improve yourself.
Yeah. You have to take accountability and responsibility and realize that everything in your life comes from your internal state. It's all about what's going on in your own head.
Yes.
And it's like you can't always control circumstances as they happen, but you control how you react to them and what you get or don't get from them. It's like you always choose how you respond to things. And until you start to respond in like people go through their entire, like, why am I poor and why am I this and why am I that? And it's the answer, even when it doesn't seem like it, and this can seem like a really harsh thing to say, it is always because of who you are and the way that you think and the way that you behave. And people go through their life blaming other people because it's very difficult to accept that response. It's very difficult to accept full responsibility for everything that's happening. Like life is sometimes cruel and it's unfair and it takes things away from you and it hurts you and it gives you things to love and then kills them off. It's like life is not a fair and equitable thing. It's not always nice, right? And coming to terms with that and accepting that it's your responsibility no matter what to try and live a good life and to change the way that you view things and to change how you respond to circumstances even when they're really shit. That's how you live a good life. It's in a combination of acceptance and forward thinking, and it's especially for older people. Like I've had clients in the past that are a bit older, and it's much harder for them to change because they've spent so long ingrained in their own mentality that it's very difficult for them to accept. It's very difficult for them to accept that they're responsible because that would mean. It's like, there's so much programming and stuff there that it's hard to dismantle that the longer you've been in it. And B, it involves accepting that you've wasted time, basically. It involves accepting that you've spent so much time believing that you're a victim or believing that life is just unfair to you, that it becomes so much harder to go, no, it's my fault, you know? And something that I realized years ago is that you can't force people to have that realization. And it's difficult, like, because I first got into this because I wanted to fix myself. And then I realized that because I had managed to do that, at least in some areas, it was then kind of my responsibility to give that to other people. Like I do this. Yes, I enjoy it. Yes, it gives me some like self-fulfillment. Yes, part of it's ego, but a lot of it is because I feel it is my responsibility. It's like, if I don't do this, what am I doing with my life? It's like, it would be wrong of me to not share the things that I know to help other people. Right. And I do care about other people, and I consider myself to be an empathetic person, but I have had to tone that down over the years and sort of become a little bit more closed off to what other people are doing and how other people are thinking and feeling. Because if I don't do that, you end up getting sucked into other people's narratives and sucked into their victim mentality and all that sort of stuff. And it's like you can't change people, and that really and especially when these people are close to you, like friends. And like I've had friends that I've had to cut off because it's like I've tried for years to help this person. They just don't want to be helped. They want to wallow in the self-pity. They want to be in a negative state, and they want to spiral downwards. It's their identity. It's their life, you know. And detaching yourself from that is sometimes a difficult thing to do, but you have to, you know. You can show a man a door, you can't make him walk through it. And it's everybody's own responsibility, not only to figure out who they want to be and all this stuff, but to take the responsibility of actually getting there. And there is nothing that I or you or anyone else can say to make that happen. And I get people coming to me as well, and they ask questions, and they're like, well, my friend is like this, and my brother's like this, or whatever. And the first thing I say is always like, you can only lead by example. You can't make people change. They're only ever going to change when they decide to. And then that's a realization that not everybody has.
Yeah, and the moment you talk to people with this victim mentality, it's so easy to figure them out. like the moment you talk about something, they always make up a problem and why it doesn't work for them.
Oh, it's because of
There's
this, it's
always a
because of
problem to
that,
solve.
and this happened to me, and that happened to me, and every time this happens, something bad. Like I am of the opinion that you know, I'm a fairly, I try not to get too deep into this because I realize it can alienate certain people, and not everybody shares this mentality, and that's perfectly fine. I try to look at things from a grounded and pragmatic perspective, even though I'm a very spiritual person. I am of the belief that life works sort of like a dream, right? And just as when you go to sleep at night and you have a dream, you are creating a world within your consciousness, and you are simultaneously a point of awareness within that world. So it's like you can dream and create an entire structure, a mental thing, a plane within your consciousness, but then simultaneously you are experiencing from inside of that thing. I think reality works sort of like that within the mind of God, right? So there is something, call it consciousness, call it God, call it whatever the fuck you call it, the universe, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. That is within the consciousness of that exists this reality. And we are little points of awareness that are connected to that thing, that are experiencing reality within this. And everything comes from internal. Everything's mental, just projected externally into physical reality through the dream state. And it has laws and it has structure. It's not like a dream where you can just like fucking fly or whatever. There are rules to this game, but it is just a game and a dream at the end of the day. It's not that things don't matter, but they're not as cold and rational as a lot of people think that they are, at least in my opinion. And I am of the belief that the things that you think and the things that you say and the things that you believe will have an effect on your external reality. And you can usually I come at this from the pragmatic approach, and I say the things that you think affect the way that you act. That affects the results that you get. But I also think the things that you think and the things that you believe affect how life treats you and the things that happen. And if you believe that life is cold and random and cruel, it will be cold and random and cruel. But if you believe that it's interconnected and full of beauty and like the things that you want are manifesting in your fucking world, they will. And I have experienced this firsthand. It's like the more that I think like that, the more that reality seems to work that way. Maybe it's schizophrenia. Like maybe I'm just fucking crazy, right? But I'm happy being crazy, right? It feels good and things are working. Like it seems like life is conspiring to make things work for me because I believe it is, right? And you can call that crazy, but it fucking works, right? And there is a certain element of like, if you're the kind of person that's constantly telling yourself like, oh, every time I get money it disappears, or bad things constantly happen and people are untrustworthy, that's the life that you're going to live, and that's the external experience that you're going to have. And you could say that it's because of pragmatic and rational things. You could say that it's just because of your perspective and the way that your subconscious filters things into your reality and the things that you choose to see, and that the way you behave creates certain results. Or you could say it's also that literally the way that you think is having an effect on what life does to you, right? Because you're broadcasting this thing into the dream and the dream is responding, right? And I think it's some combination of both. I think those are both the same thing. But either way, it all comes down to the things that are in your head. Like life is whatever you believe it is, in a weird way. You know, even when it comes down to the crazy person, right? If you take it like a genuinely schizophrenic crazy person, and they're sitting there and they're going, there's voices and there's people talking to me and there's shadow people and they're telling me to murder people, right? Nobody else sees that. The schizophrenic does, right? It's real to them, you know. Yeah. And it's. I think there is a much more blurred line between delusion and reality than a lot of people. And I think sanity, like true sanity, is finding a balance between. Like there's two sides. There's blindness and there's madness. And if you go too far to this side, if you go too far to the blind side, everything is cold and rational and hierarchical, and it all follows a structure, and it's cold and it's dead and it follows principles and you're cut off to like wonder and spirituality and all this stuff. You go too far in this direction and you start seeing things that aren't there, and you go a little bit crazy, and the lines that hold reality together become too blurred and your mind breaks, right? I think that true sanity exists somewhere in the middle, and that reality is actually a balance of both, right? It is neither. It's a piece of each that comes together to form this thing. Do I sound mad?
Ben, you know, I love when you go on these rants. Like, it's so cool to follow.
The lizard people, they're controlling everything, and they're putting chemicals in the water to make the frogs gay, and they're they're fucking taking kids to islands and fucking them, and the world is run by Satanists now.
Let's not think this way. But something that I saw recently, and there was this guy who said, how can this problem, like whenever you face a problem, how can this problem be the best thing that ever could happen to me? I think it's a beautiful way of looking at things.
Yeah,
because you can like
on you go.
make beautiful things from problems.
Absolutely. So
Like,
one of the things that clued me
let's
into
even
this
say-
mentality. Sorry, please finish. I'm interrupting you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, let's even look at my problem in the past. I had social anxiety and I couldn't talk to girls. Look at where I'm now because of having this mindset. And like, life is so much more amazing for me. Like, this problem was actually a gift for me. You see?
Yeah, and it's often like if you like where your life is at, if you like who you are and you like where your life is right now, everything that has ever happened to you has been positive. And if you don't like who you are and where your life is right now, everything that's ever happened to you has been negative. The events themselves don't change, but if you like who you are, then it's like I had I've had horrible shit happen to me, a bad childhood, and a family history of abuse that I won't go into too much because it's not entirely my story to share, right? But there's a lot of like really dark shit. And I used to hate myself and I used to lament things and be the victim and all that stuff. And it's like, now, being where I am, I love who I am. I love how my life is going. I'm very happy with things and I'm very grateful. And there is not a single thing about my life that I would change. Like, people are like, oh, do you wish you could go back and do things different? No, I don't. And I'm glad everything happened exactly the way that it did, because I wouldn't be me right now if it hadn't. And so it really is like the events are the same, and they are not inherently good or bad. It's just about how you perceive it. And there's a book that when I first started in self-improvement, I read a bunch of times. It's called Zen and the Art of Happiness by Chris Prentice. It's a very simple book and it's very woo-woo, and you could probably, I think you can read it in less than a day, right? It's like 200 pages or something. It's a very short book. But the entire central premise of that is that if you treat everything in your life as the best possible thing that could happen, even if it seems quote unquote negative at the time, if you go, this is happening to benefit me, this is the best possible thing that could be happening to me right now, it always will be. And anytime I have implemented that belief and practice it, it has always been true, right? It's like even when things seem really, really bad, you wait a couple of months and it's like, oh shit, I'm so happy that thing happened, right? Even just in the past couple of years, I've had like really negative shit. I got fucking trapped in a foreign country and fell in love and got my heart broken and all this stuff that I hated happen. I was like, fuck at the time, right? But now I look back on that and like, everything was perfect. It was perfect. Happened exactly as it needed to happen, And maybe that's delusional, but you live a much happier life if you think that way,
Yes. And also, like, even in that moment in time where you have like shit happening to you, look at how much more resilience it gives you just 100%. By thinking this way.
Yeah, and you start to look for opportunities in things rather than just lamenting them. It's like there's always something there that you can take advantage of, or something that you can learn from. And it's like failure is a good thing. The people that know the most are the people that have failed the most. It's like you say, it's like all that shit that you've been through. It's like, would you change any of it? No. Like, why would you? Because it has made you who you are, and it has been something that you have learned from, And if it hadn't been there, you wouldn't be yourself right now. You'd be someone else. It's like if I was fucking born rich and like into a secure, stable family and all of this shit, I'd be a boring cunt. I'd probably be a bad person.
Yeah, Ben. Actually, like, I think if I would have turned back time, I maybe would have wished for more problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of our way of thinking.
You grow from it. You learn from it. It's like I think, who was it that said? I think it was Peter Sage that said this. I think in the company that I used to work for, we used to run these events, and we'd have a bunch of speakers come. It was like a big seminar and stuff. Did you ever go to those? Did you ever go to one of those?
No, I haven't.
The summits? No. Anyway, there was a speaker there called Peter Sage. He used to work for Tony Robbins, and one of the things that he said that stuck with me once is like, where do the strongest trees grow? It's not in the best soil, it's in the strongest winds. The strongest trees grow in the strongest winds because they have to. They get resilient. So yeah, it's the problems that you have in life that make, and it's like sometimes clients come to me and they're like, oh, everything's shit, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, good. Isn't this such a wonderful starting point? Like, imagine everything in your life gets better. And like 2 years from now, you're looking back at this moment. How good are you going to feel? Whereas if you just had everything from the start, you don't appreciate it. You can't make a rainbow without some rain. You have to take the good with the bad. And it's the bad things that make the good, and vice versa. It's the fucking taijutsu. It's the yin yang. There's good and there's bad in the world, and each has a piece of the other in it, and it circles round forever. And it's about integrating both of those to become a whole person. And if you have only good or only bad, yeah, your life sucks. Because if you have only good, you don't appreciate it. And if you have only bad, you're just suffering constantly. Whereas if you have both and you learn how to navigate both and balance both, you become a well-rounded, happy person.
Yes, this with some sprinkles of gratitude. Like if you
Yeah.
learn how to be grateful for things, then the good things are even more amazing, and the
Yeah.
bad things are amazing as well. So you cannot have anything else but an amazing life.
Yeah. Yeah. Be thankful you're not like people are, oh, my life's shit. It's like, do you have a job? Yeah. You make money? Yeah. You got a roof over your head? Yeah. You got food? Yeah. You eat and work? Yeah. You live like a king.
Yeah.
What is there not to be happy about? And it's perspective. It's perspective, and it's what you're used to. And even depression to an extent. And I say this as somebody who I'm not going to say that there's no such thing as like clinical depression and bad brain chemistry and stuff like that. I'm not naive enough to necessarily believe that. But I think in the vast majority of and people are always going to find a reason to be like, oh, well, I'm the one that's obviously super fucked up. But as someone who used to be depressed and suicidal, I believe it's a symptom. It's like there's things there that you're not addressing, and maybe it's a lack of gratitude for shit around you, or maybe it's just a bad perspective on life, and like you're focused on negative things rather than positive. That's how it was. Like I had problems, but a lot of it was focused on being a victim rather than fixing my problems. And that's what made me depressed. And it's like, I think a lot of people are in depression. It's like, it's a symptom. It's easier to feel a small amount of pain for a long period of time than it is to feel a large amount of pain for a short period of time to actually fix the shit that you're going through, you know? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Very much, actually.
So yeah, it's all in your head. It's all in your fucking... I know I say this every fucking stream, but it's all in your head. Everything's all in your fucking head. And if you can fix what's going on in here, like by changing the way that you think and also the external manifestations, like changing... But like everything comes from in here, so the changing the way that you behave and think about the world and the way that you act and the things that you're drawing in and how you treat life and what you're grateful for and what you're not. And just your perspective on things. Everything else changes. And I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. For anybody that's watching, there are coaching calls starting straight after these calls. For coaching access members, you can go to discord.gg/self-improvement. It's sort of like this, except it's a one-on-one or one, it's like a group format. Everybody gets a chance to talk and we answer the questions and stuff like that. It's a much more directed coaching format to solve your problems. So that's discord.gg/self-improvement, or there's a link in the description if anybody wants to, if the link ever disappears, which it might. Discord might take it from me at some point, who knows. And we will be back not next week, but the week after, live from Sofia, and Anton will be here sitting next to me, and it will be fantastic. Yes. If you have questions or you want to call into the show, again, it's that link. There's a bit there called Off the Cuff, and there's a submissions page, and you can go and type your questions in there, and we'll answer them live on the stream. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. And I'm going to give it a few seconds so that YouTube doesn't cut me off at the end of my rambling. I need to get my finger up my arse and make these like intro outros thing, because every time we do one of these, I'm like, fuck, why haven't I? It would take me 10 minutes. It would take me 10 fucking minutes, and I'd just have like little info cards and some music.